I'm Paul Kern, and this is Elevate, a video blog designed to help you reach your God-given potential. Join me now for Elevate. I do have a great Elevate for you this week. Now, what we've been talking about in these past sessions is the potential principle. And basically what we said is everything that God does according to a pattern based on a principle of His Word. So in other words, God's will is going to be activated in your life through the principles that He's placed within His Word. I actually got a book that I want to recommend to you, and I'm a big fan of Andy Stanley. And so I've got this book that I want to recommend called The Principle of the Path by Andy Stanley. You can certainly, actually you can go to my website, and if you go to my recommended reading, you'll find this book there, and you click on it, it'll take you directly to Amazon.com. So just go to farbeyondsurface.com and go to recommended reading, or go to paulkern.me. Both of those will get you to my blog. Click on recommended reading and go and pick up this book by Andy Stanley. It's a great book called The Principle of the Path, and I highly recommend it. Some of the things that I am sharing with you are some things that I've gleaned from this book. Read this book a while back, but it's a really, really great book. Our topic today that we're going to be talking about is the principle of the harvest. Some of you have heard it said this way. It's the principle of sowing and reaping. And basically, the principle of sowing and reaping is something that is talked a lot about in the Scripture. Now, if you grew up on a farm, or if you grew up in church, you've probably heard this before. Even if you haven't heard it, this principle is activated in your life whether you know it or not. So I want to look at this. The principle of the harvest basically states you reap what you sow. In other words, what you put into something is going to determine what you're going to get out of something. So if you sow apple seeds, then you're going to reap apple trees. If you sow watermelon seeds, you're going to reap, you guessed it, watermelons. That's the way it works. So we will always reap whatever we sow. As a matter of fact, the scripture for this is found in Galatians chapter 6, verse 7. It says, "Don't be misled. You cannot mock the justice of God. You will always harvest what you plant." Now listen, those who live only to satisfy their own sinful nature will harvest decay and death from that sinful nature. But those who live to please the Spirit will harvest everlasting life from the Spirit. So let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. Therefore, whenever we have an opportunity, we should do good to everyone, especially to those in the family of faith. Now, the principle of the harvest applies to every realm of your life. Not just in farming, it applies to every realm. It applies to friendships. It can apply to finances. It can apply to your marriage relationship, or really any other area of your life. You're going to get back what you give out. That's what the principle of the harvest basically says. What you put into something will determine what you can expect, or the impact you can expect to get out of it. Now, you experience this in your studies at school. I mean, if you study really hard on a test, then you're going to reap from that hard work. I just saw a young man from our church post on his blog how he studied all last night, 6 hours, so that he wouldn't have to get any homework done over the weekend. See, he sowed now so that he could reap later. And we see this principle playing out. It doesn't matter if you believe in this principle or not. And that's the thing about principles. That's the important thing to understand about God's principles. It doesn't matter if you believe in God's principles or not. You are always going to reap whatever it is that you sow. Joseph is the guy that we've been looking at and using in the study. And man, Joseph just, he had obviously a very difficult life. I mean, he was taken into captivity. He was taken away from his family at a young age. He was in Potiphar's house. But Joseph excelled, and Joseph was promoted in his place of influence. Why? Because Joseph constantly sowed obedience. He constantly sowed faithfulness. He worked hard, and favor came his way. See, you will always reap whatever you sow. So I want to encourage you, no matter what situation you are in, don't allow yourself to get a sour attitude. You've got to keep yourself encouraged. Hear what the Scripture says. It says, listen, so let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. So in other words, if you'll just keep sowing good seed, it's just right around the corner for you that good things are going to happen. And you may say, well, Paul, I've been sowing and nothing's happened. Well, listen, we understand the principle of the harvest. A farmer goes out, he sows a seed. He doesn't wake up tomorrow morning and say, where's my corn, or where's my tomatoes, or where's my watermelon? No, he understands that there is seed time and then there is harvest. So you're going to plant, and then you've got to watch over that seed. You've got to water it with thanksgiving. You've got to cultivate it and fertilize it with faith, and you believe God, and then ultimately that thing will come forth in your life. And trust me, I've seen this happen many, many times in my own life. You will reap what it is that you're sowing. I want to encourage you. What do you want today? What do you need? So what you got to do is whatever you want, you sow to it. In other words, do you need friends today? Then you sow friendship. Do you need your finances to be better today? Well, then you sow your tithe and your offering. And you might even want to go above and beyond and give to somebody beyond that. You understand? You pay your tithe and then you give your offering. So you pay your tithe and you go above and beyond and you give an offering if you're needing finances. Whatever it is that you're needing, if you need some mercy, sow some mercy. If you need some love, sow some love. If you need somebody to be a confidant to you and a close friend, then you work at doing that in someone else's life. You need a promotion at work, you need a raise, then get there early. Stay late. Work hard. If you'll sow these seeds, you will reap what it is that you're sowing. Remember, the principle of the harvest will always produce whatever you sow. So you've got to watch a bad attitude. If you start thinking bad thoughts and you start saying bad words, negative words out of your mouth, critical words out of your mouth, if you start getting a negative attitude, then ultimately that's going to be what's going to be produced in your life, because that's what you're sowing. So you may have to say, you know what, Paul, I've got to correct my attitude. Man, I've had a sour attitude. I haven't been thinking the right thoughts. I haven't thought the right things about this person. I haven't said the right things about my boss. I haven't responded the right way toward my homework. So what you can do is you can easily fix this. See, you go back and you sow good seeds, and you'll begin to see these things come forth in your life. Sowing the right thoughts in your heart are going to produce joy, peace, and happiness. Sowing the wrong thoughts in your heart will only produce frustration and dissatisfaction with where you are. Joseph was in a really tough spot in life, but Joseph kept a right attitude in his mind, and he kept a right attitude in his heart, and God was able to prosper him and bless him. Today, I want to encourage you. The next time you find yourself in need of something in life, sow to it. Sow to it. If you don't have money, sow it. If you don't have friends, sow it. If you don't have the right attitude, then sow a good attitude. Get in the Word. Begin to allow God to encourage you and motivate you and get yourself back to a place where God can bless you. In this example of you always reap whatever you sow, I want to encourage you. It's real easy to get discouraged because you feel like you've been doing something, but then you don't see anything happen. But let me encourage you in this. When is your harvest going to come? It's going to be the day after you give up. That's why the Scripture exhorts us, don't grow weary in doing what's good, for at the right time and at the right moment, you will reap a harvest of blessing if you don't give up. Don't give up today. Stay in there. God's on your side. God's watching. God is always working in the background on your behalf. God bless you today. Man, I'll see you in our next episode of Elevate. Goodbye.